Welcome to Self-Publishing with Ally, proudly sponsored by BookVault. Sell high-quality print-on-demand books directly to readers worldwide and earn maximum royalties selling directly. Automate fulfillment and create stunning special editions with BookVault Bespoke. Visit bookvault.app today for an instant quote. Our self-publishing news stream is sponsored by book cover design company Mibble Art. They offer unlimited revisions, take no deposit to start work, and you pay only when you love the final result. Get a book cover that will become your #1 marketing tool. And now, here's your host for Self-Publishing with Ally, Dan Holloway.
Hello and welcome to another Self-Publishing News podcast. And today we have not one, not two, but 3 pieces of legislation and their impact. But before I get into that, the main news this week is a piece about Shopify that has been prompted by communications from a number of Ally members. Thank you very much to everyone who has been in touch with the Ally team about this. Apologies it has taken so long to turn it into a story, but I am thankful for all your patience. And so, the background, Shopify, of course, in the age of self-publishing 3.0 and indies trying to do as much as we can for ourselves without relying on platforms to distribute on our behalf. We use shopfronts and we like to create our own stores, and one of the main platforms obviously for doing that is Shopify. Lots of indie authors, just like lots of people in every other sphere, use Shopify as a storefront from which people can buy physical books, ebooks, merch, all kinds of things that we have to offer. Now, at the end of May, on the 27th of May, a number of writers noticed a spate of suspicious activity that seems to have emanated from a coordinated bot attack. So what people were noticing was hundreds and in some cases thousands of attempts to purchase ebooks, all within a few minutes. And then in some cases, this was also coordinated with attempts to mass sign up to email lists to such an extent that in some cases it was in danger of pushing people over their subscriber limit on the tier plans they had for their email lists. And many of these were flagged as fraudulent by Shopify. Of the authors who spoke to us, most refunded what they could refund absolutely instantly, but in a number of cases, it took Shopify more than 24 hours to process those refunds, and as a result, our people became eligible for or subject to chargebacks, which I believe were charged at $15 a pop, which obviously is not an insignificant amount. When you have thousands of purchases, even a tiny percentage of that, if it ends up as a chargeback, can be a huge expense, in some cases hundreds of dollars. And also, people have ended up being hit with credit card fees. So Shopify enabled the refund of the purchase price, but not the merchant's credit card payment fees. So people got in touch with Shopify. They weren't happy that they had been they lost out financially as a result of a fraudulent attack. They had discovered from online forums that it clearly was a coordinated fraudulent attack because it had happened to everyone at the same time. People had put their stories together. It seems that in several of the emails, even Shopify was acknowledging that this was a known bot attack. So what customers experienced was, and this is where they wanted the issue raised, was first of all some inconsistency in the messaging from Shopify. So several of the customer services conversations that we have seen transcripts of suggest that customer service agents were saying to store owners that in no case would they be liable to fees from fraudulent transactions. And yet, even though transactions have been flagged as fraudulent, they were known to be fraudulent, they were still not being refunded the merchant fees or the chargebacks. And it seems that this is actually in accordance with Shopify's terms and conditions that it's the case that credit card fees cannot be refunded, even in the case of fraudulent transactions. And so this mixed messaging had caused a certain amount of confusion and a large amount of distress. It has also left people wondering if stores like Shopify are subject to potential fraudulent attacks like this, and they're going to be left footing the bill. Then what are they paying for, and is it worth having a store with a platform like Shopify if you are potentially leaving yourself open to this, which in many cases we simply can't afford? This is further exacerbated by the fact that Shopify has sort of tiers of security levels, and many of the most stringent tiers of security levels, which enable you to make your settings such that you manually process all credit card transactions before they go through, are only available to the Shopify Plus accounts, which, as authors have pointed out, are not necessarily something that an indie author can afford to do. So it's almost like a pay for security. So people have been left questioning whether it is actually a wise or even a viable thing for indie authors to have their shop fronts using Shopify, given the response there has been to this known attack. So that, yeah, it's an awareness raising piece. It's news to the extent that this happened recently. It happened at the end of May. I'm sure Shopify are taking action to prevent such things happening again and to increase the amount of transactions that they are internally stopping going through. But in the meanwhile, people should be aware of these issues, be aware of what they're laying themselves open to if you have an account with someone like Shopify, and certainly make sure that your settings are as stringent as they can be. So where possible, make it that you have to approve transactions before they go through, for example. So that's Shopify, which is our main news of the week. And I promised you some legal stuff or some legislative stuff. So in the UK, to start with, at the end of July, the Online Safety Act came into force, which requires sites allowing people to access adult material, which is in the phrase that is going to go down in history alongside various comments on obscenity laws from the past, harmful but not illegal. So any sites that allow access to that kind of material have to put in place reliable and robust age verification procedures. And this came into effect on Friday, the 25th of July. There are already many sites under investigation for not putting these into place, needless to say. But among the sites who are, this is clearly not just affecting adult content sites. It's X, it's Reddit, it's Blue Sky, and Spotify are even talking about putting it into place for example, songs that have explicit lyrics. So this is something that affects everyone. There has been somewhat of a backlash in the UK and beyond from people who didn't necessarily realise what it meant when the law was first mooted. But this is clearly going to affect how people access books, and it's going to affect how, if you make snippets from your books available online, if you use social media to promote your books, in particular if you write in erotica or in certain sort of forms of non-fiction or certain forms of violence or horror, then it's going to make it harder for UK audiences to get access to your books, because lots of people are not confident verifying their age because of the way that this is being mandated, which is basically through a number of, essentially, I believe at the moment, unregulated third-party companies. And as the saying goes, what could possibly go wrong with giving personal details about yourself and the sites you access to random third-party companies? So that's the big piece of legislation from this week, which is in the UK. In the EU, there has been some hand-wringing amongst creatives about the way the AI Act has been put into force. So the AI Act is designed to regulate the AI industry and ensure robust protection of the rights of copyright holders. It's the most creative, friendly AI legislation that we've seen so far, but there are worries that it's not actually being enacted in this way, and it's actually quite easy for firms, big tech firms, to get around it. Obviously, more remains to be seen about this. And then finally, in the US, not yet enacted, but the White House's AI action plan has been much talked about. And this, as we said about the EU, this is the EU has put in place the most creator-friendly legislation. This really is in America. It looks very, very, very tech-friendly, and the publishing industry is somewhat worried about this. So the phrase that Maria Palante of the Association of American Publishers has used is that high-quality AI depends on high-quality authorship. And what the White House's action plan seems to be calling for is a reduction in regulation that prevents tech companies from accessing the training information that they need. So that if that does get put into law, that is very, very much something that I will be updating you on and we need to keep an eye on. With that, thank you very much for listening. As always, I very much look forward to speaking to you again at the same time next week.
You've been listening to Self-Publishing with Ally, proudly sponsored by BookVault. Sell high-quality print-on-demand books directly to readers worldwide and earn maximum royalties selling directly. Automate fulfillment and create stunning special editions with BookVault Bespoke. Visit bookvault.app today for an instant quote. Our self-publishing news stream is sponsored by book cover company Nibble Art. They offer unlimited revisions, take no deposit to start work, and you pay only when you love the final result. Get a book cover that will become your #1 marketing tool. And if you haven't already, we invite you to join our association and become a self-publishing ally. You can do that at allianceindependentauthors.org.